right, so if you have a band, grab your band. If you don't have a band, that is okay. We can do the stretch without it. Let's start with a little assessment. Start seated with your legs out in front of you, and just notice as you attempt to sit right on top of your sits bones, how does that feel in your hip flexors? How does that feel in your spine? And how does it feel in your hamstrings? So we are not trying to change it or define it specifically, just noticing where maybe you feel tension or maybe you feel a difference from side to side. So think about that, notice that, and then file it in the back of your mind. And then we're going to get a little more specific. So I'll have you bend your knees so that you can come further onto your sits bones and release your hip flexors a little bit. And then nod your chin, drop your chin towards your chest, and allow your spine to round forward, head toward your toes rather than rolling backward. And assess specifically the spine here. Notice if you feel any stiff bits. So in particular, the neck across the shoulder blades and or the lower back. And sometimes you don't feel the stiff parts as much as you can just kind of take note of, for example, where your focus is in your neck. So when I drop my head, it doesn't feel tight to me, but I notice that my chin doesn't go to my chest and my gaze is more toward my knees. If I was very flexible there, my chin would really drop down low, and I can force it there. But in a comfortable, relaxed position, that's not where it is. So in the back of my mind, I know that my neck can use a little work in terms of flexibility. Okay? And then across the shoulder blades, are your shoulders really relaxed forward, or do you hold your chest wide? And then in the lumbar spine, if that area is tight, you'll probably feel a little pull there. If you don't feel a pull there, then it's probably not tight. All right, moving from the spine to the hamstrings, straighten one leg. Notice that what that does to your back, and notice what that feels like in your hamstring. And then bend the knee and straighten the other leg. Once again, notice if that straightening causes more sensation in your back or in your hamstring. And then bend both knees. Now we're going to take both legs straight out in front as far as you can. If they don't straighten all the way, that's okay. This is just assessment and we don't want to push it. Walk your hands forward towards your ankles and then take note of where your fingers are. Notice how wide your legs are and notice where your fingers end. Can you touch your ankles? Can you touch your toes? Or are you further back? And then in addition to noticing how far your reach goes, notice what sensation that causes in both your spine and your hamstrings. Okay, and now we're going to roll up, stack from tail to head to sit up tall and assess the upper body. Take your arms out to the sides and lift them up overhead. Turn your palms to face each other and bring your arms back toward your ears. The goal is to bring the arms in line with the ears, but I want you to do that without force. And notice as you bring your arms back further, are they coming back via muscle or are they coming back via a rib pop? So notice if I use my arms and pull them back, I'm quite far in front of my head. I can lift my rib cage and it makes my arms appear to be more perpendicular to the floor, but really I've just contracted my back muscles. So without including your low back in the mix or your mid back in the mix, notice where your arms go. And then take your arms out to the side, palms forward, and pull them back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Look from the right to the left and notice the relationship of your arms. Now notice if you pull your chin back over your shoulders, where your arms go. Oftentimes we push the chin forward to get the sensation of a more wide collarbone, but with the ears pulled back over the shoulders, you'll notice a little less range probably. So with the ears pulled back over the shoulders and the shoulder blades squeezed together behind you, now look to your right and to your left. and notice your true range there. All right, and relax. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the neck. Sit comfortably on your seat or on a yoga block or a blanket. Bring your hand, either hand, onto the opposite collarbone, and then the other hand to the other opposite collarbone, and then let the weight of your hands just pull the collarbones down toward the floor. So you're not pulling it down, you're not forcing it down, you're just really resting the weight of your arms on your collarbones and letting them draw down closer to the floor. Lift your eyes to the sky, follow with your nose and your chin, and continue pulling gently, very gently, with your arms, elbows toward the floor. And notice the stretch that creates around the jaw, all the way to the collarbones. Now turn your head slightly to the right and lift your chin up to the right. And turn to the other side. And lift your chin. And then come to center. Relax your arms and switch your hands. Same thing, you're just going to cross your hands in the other direction. A gentle downward pull, just using the weight of your arms, and then lift your eyes, your nose, your chin, and pause there. Close your mouth, and open your jaw, and close your mouth, and open your jaw, and play with that a little bit, and notice the stretch that creates in your platysma. That's the muscle surrounding the neck to the collarbone. And close your jaw so that you feel a gentle stretch. Maintain that stretch as you then turn your head to the right and left, and notice if you feel any tight bits, any spots that are more restricted than another. Are you tighter on the right or the left side? Pick one side and close the jaw in that direction. And then to the other side. And bring your head back down to center. Bring your arms out to the sides, clasp your fingers, make a basket with your hands, and then place your hands under the base of your skull. Let your head fall back into your hands heavy, and then use your arms and your hands to lift the head up from your shoulders. So it's a very subtle motion, and it may be undetectable to the naked eye, to the observer, but I want you to feel the increase in length in the back of your neck. So the eyes are lifted, the chin is slightly lifted, but the emphasis is now on the back of the neck and creating space between the base of the skull and your shoulders. Let your shoulders drop down as your hands gently lift up. We're going to keep our hands on the back of our neck, and now push your head back into your hands, bring your elbows forward. So I'm contracting the back of my neck, and we're preparing for a PNF stretch, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So I'm contracting the neck muscles posterior, that means in the back. Take another deep breath into your neck, three-dimensionally. Fill all the space, and as you exhale, use your hands to lift the base of your skull as you relax your neck and allow your chin to draw towards your throat. So notice I said towards your throat and not towards your chest. I want you to keep the neck long here, and then let the elbows fall forward. So we just contracted the back of the neck, and now we're stretching. And we're just going to pause here for a couple of breaths, now focusing the air into the back of your neck. Ensure that your head is dropping down and dropping forward toward the floor, chin toward the floor, rather, chin toward the throat. We're going to do that again. Lift the eyes, nose, chin, and just slightly the chest. Press your head back into your hands. Ensure that your shoulders are dropped and your head is far away from your shoulders. This is just about 5, 10, maybe 15% intensity. Nothing crazy here. Take another deep breath into the back of your neck. Stay there. Continue contracting through your exhalation. And on your next inhalation, allow your chin to nod. Use your hands to lift your ears up and away from your shoulders. Bring your chin toward your throat. The elbows are reaching forward, not pulling your head forward, but rather letting the weight of your arms pull your head deeper into a stretch. Take another breath here now into the back of your neck, and as you exhale, let your eyes drop further now toward your belly button. So the chin is still pulling toward the throat, but now think about rounding from the base of your neck to about the middle of your shoulder blades. Go ahead and take your hands off of your head. You can rest them on your hands or rest them on the floor. At this point, we're just using gravity to continue stretching the neck and stretch below the neck in about the shoulder blade area. Stay right on your sits bones here, right on top of your pelvic bones. So the lower part of your spine is neutral. Take a deep breath into the back of the neck and into the shoulder blades behind you. As you exhale, relax. Let the body fall a little more forward and pause. So we are at, we go through 3 phases of resistance for this work. We're still at R1 here. We did the 3 phases in the neck, now across the shoulder blades. We're still at resistance level 1. I'm going to have you take your arms behind you now, and then lift eyes, nose, chin, chest, rest back into your palms, and lift your chest way up to the sky. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. So we're back bending the upper back primarily and squeezing the shoulder blades together to activate all of those muscles for a PNF stretch. Contracting the muscles before we stretch them to send the nervous system a signal that it's all safe, it's all good. Take a deep breath in, into the front body, and then as you exhale, come off of your hands, nod your chin, round down through your spine, and see if the spine in about the shoulder blade area is a little more flexible now. We're focusing on thoracic spine. Your thoracic spine goes from the base of your neck all the way down to the bottom rib in the back of you. So that's our target now. If you feel a little inherent stretch in the lumbar spine, that is perfectly fine and perfectly wonderful and normal. Just know in the back of your mind at this moment, your target is the thoracic spine. Your neck is relaxed, just like gravity. Pull the head toward the floor. And we're going to take the arms behind us and move from R2, or resistance level 2, to R3. So we take the weight back into the hands, lift the eyes, nose, chin, chest, and contract the back muscles now from the shoulder blades all the way down to the bottom rib. About 10 to 15%. Take another full breath in the front body. Stay there, continue contracting as you exhale. Make sure the neck is long, ears away from the shoulders. Exhale when you feel ready to do so. And on your next inhale, come back onto your sits bones, nod your chin round forward, let the spine fall forward, and now contract your abdominals. So the last time we contracted the back muscles and let gravity pull us forward to bring us deeper into the stretch, into the resistance level 2. Now we're contracting the abdominals after all that to deepen the stretch and take it to the very end range, which would be resistance level 3. All right, we're going to move down into the lumbar spine. So take a deep breath right into your low back. And as you exhale, let your body fall a little more forward. It may not move at all, and that's okay. Take your focus and your intention into your lumbar spine. To stretch the lumbar spine, we have to stay on top of our sits bones, on top of your butt bones. And just think about the spine rounding forward rather than hinging at the hip. And what I mean by that is, here my pelvis is vertical, my sacrum is kind of straight up and down. So it's a stretch in the spine rather than a hinge forward at the hips, right? And it may look like less of a stretch, but it should feel like more of a stretch in the lumbar spine if you do it that way. We're going to do that same PNF technique to get a deeper stretch in the lumbar spine. So you can sit up tall on your sits bones, stack your vertebrae one at a time, contract all the spine muscles, bring your hands back behind you, lift eyes, nose, chin, chest, and now work from the shoulders all the way down to the lumbar spine and contract. And pause there. You can really rest in your arms and contract a little more, about 15%. Take a full deep breath into the front body. Keep the ears away from the shoulders. When you're ready to exhale, just exhale comfortably, nothing forced, whatever feels right to you. When you're ready to inhale again, stack. Come onto your sits bones, nod your chin, round your spine, let gravity pull you toward the floor. Support yourself with your hands on your thighs or in front of you if you need to. And then consider the neck position. Because we tend to, well, we live in a forward world, right? Everything is in front. We're always moving forward. But if you work at a job that is at a computer, or you use a, well, if you, right? We all do. If you use a phone for texting, we tend to let the head drop forward from the chin. So I'd like you to stay here, knowing that your focus is on the lumbar spine now, but consider the position of your neck. Make sure your chin is pulling into your throat, and then the head is reaching down to the floor. We're going to do one more PNF stretch. Sweep your arms around behind you as you stack from your hips to your head. Reach your arms back, lift your eyes, nose, chin, and chest, and contract. From the top of the shoulders all the way down through the spine to your lumbar spine. In this position, imagine trying to bring your tailbone up toward your shoulder blades so you get a little more contraction in the lumbar spine. The neck muscles in this position actually are working in the front to keep your head from dropping to your shoulders. Take a breath here, sit up on top of your sits bones, and nod your chin, roll down. Remember, your chin comes to your throat rather than your chest. And your spine topples one vertebra at a time and reaches to the floor. From here, if you can, walk your hands forward. And now we'll get into a little bit of a hip stretch. Just take it where it's comfortable for you. And comfortable is relative, right? A little stretch is okay, but pain is not good. So still pulling the chin to the throat, still focusing on spine stretch, but now adding the hips to the mix. In this position with the body folded forward, we moved from the hip, and now to get back to the spine, I'd like you to try to leave your elbows here. Think about lifting your bottom rib up to the sky and increasing the curve in your spine. So you're trying to make a big letter C with your spine. Chin to the throat. Take another breath here, and as you exhale, roll all the way up, one vertebra at a time. Sit right on top of your sits bones, and then bring your legs out in front of you. Sit first on your sits bones with your knees bent, and then straighten your legs, and notice what stretching your spine has done for your hamstrings. Depending on your posture and your tight parts, you may not feel as much of a significant change as I do, but what I feel now is much less in the hip flexors. So we talk about just about every class, I think, that the fascial line in the back of you goes from your toes all the way up the back body. Oftentimes the hamstring stretch or hamstring tightness is not hamstring tightness, it's spinal tightness and lack of flexibility in the spine. So just take note here and determine if you're more easily able to sit on your sits bones and if maybe your hamstring tightness is actually spine tightness. Having said that, we're definitely going to stretch the hamstrings and make it even more, we're going to turn you into Gumby, okay? We'll get back to the arms, but let's go ahead and do the lower part of the body first to finish this back line. So just lie down for a moment and pick a leg, any leg. Lift your heel up to the sky And notice how that feels in your hip flexors. Notice if your leg is straight, where is the end point for you? So most of us, if we bend our knee, we can bring it quite far back, but that's not true flexibility. That is getting only part of the hamstring stretch. So we want to keep the leg straight and then take it back. When it starts to bend, you're done. That's the end. Notice where your leg stops here. You can put that foot down, straighten the opposite leg, and then we'll straighten the same leg up to the sky again. Now, noting how that feels with the bottom leg straight. Typically a little more challenging because the pelvis tips down more into a neutral position. Okay, bend your knee and put it down, put foot down on the mat, and then we'll switch to the other side. Lift the opposite leg into the air and notice how that feels. Notice how it is different than the other side or similar to the other side in terms of sensation, and then notice the range. Is it the same? Is it more? Is it less? Once again, the leg must be straight for this assessment. Go ahead and place that foot on the mat, straighten the opposite leg, regroup, and then straighten your same leg up into the air again. And notice the difference in the range there and the difference in the requirement for hip flexor activation. Okay, so now pick whichever leg was the tightest or had the least amount of range, and you can test it again if you need to determine which one that was. We're going to take the band and wrap it around the foot. And ideally, wrap it around the ball of your foot so that you can pull your toes towards your nose so we get that whole back fascial line. And we're just going to take the leg back until it stops, and it stops with a comfortable stretch. The knee must be straight in order to benefit from this stretch. If it's bent, you're not getting the full benefit. And it may be, if you don't look at it, your knee may be bent, but your mind senses that this is your normal flexibility, this is your normal range, and so you're in a good position. So I would like you to actually open your eyes and look at your knee and notice if it is straight or bent. If it is bent, straighten it out and take it wherever you need to take it to maintain that stretch. Yeah, or maintain that length rather. The body is a master of deception. What is comfortable becomes normal, right? And so if we tend to live our lives with less flexibility in the hamstrings, for example, that feels normal. So in our minds, we feel like we're at maximum range when in fact, there's more to go. And that's why we're here. We're going to change our mind's perception of our body. All right, go ahead and straighten the opposite leg down on the mat. And now you'll notice that that stretch increases a little bit. We're at resistance level 1 now, and this is where the leg just stops. Mild stretch. And you'll notice as you hold the leg here that the intensity of that stretch decreases. As it does, you can pull back a little bit more. Know that we're just at R1 here though, so you're not yanking it back, you're just taking it back until it stops with a mild sensation of stretch. And as you rest there, you'll notice that the intensity decreases. But we're still pretty much at the end of our range. So before we take it back further, we're going to trick the muscle spindles into relaxing a little bit more. To do that, we press the foot into the band just enough to contract the hamstrings and the glutes at about 10 to 15%. So we're contracting the hamstrings and glutes, but relaxing everything else. Let go of tension in your neck and shoulders. Just breathe a moderate contraction. Another full breathing cycle. And that breathing cycle is going to be different for everyone. So I'm going to suggest that when you're ready to inhale, you relax the hamstring and pull the leg back. You may or may not go at the same time I do, and that's fine. You may still be exhaling, and that's okay. In any case, when you're ready to inhale again, you want to relax the hamstring and pull the leg back a little bit further. And I say pull the leg back further because typically it will go further with not too much effort. However, if you're new to this, I want you to consider that back further may be 1/8 of an inch for you today. We are teaching the body how to relax and let go so we can move deeper into a stretch, but relaxation takes time to learn. It's just like building a bicep muscle or a washboard stomach, right? And it's just as hard, really. It takes just as much time, just as much effort to learn to relax and release the body in order to get it to do what you want it to do, which is, in this case, is to stretch. All right, so now we're in R2. We contracted the muscle, we tricked the muscle into relaxation so we could pull it further. We're going to do that again. Keep the leg in space, but push it into your band to contract your back net, the back fascial net, your hamstring and your glute particularly. You can also push your toe into the band a little bit to contract the lower leg. Your hamstring attaches to your sits bone and below the knee. If you push your toe into the band, you're getting your calf muscle or some of your calf muscles attach to the top of above your knee. So we're getting all that back line from the hip down. Take another few breaths. You're just contracting at 15% max. A full breathing cycle. In again. When you're ready to exhale, just exhale, nothing forced. And on your next inhalation, relax the hamstring and see if you can get a little more range in that leg. Once again, if the knee bends, it doesn't count. So you got to keep that leg straight. Yes, exactly. In our mind, we think the leg should be way back there, and it will go there, but only if we do it with full length and we practice tension release with that full length. All right, so now we're at R3, or we should be at R3, which is where the leg doesn't go any further. If you were to go further, you would likely tear a muscle. So we want to not go any further than R3. We want to hang out here for a few breaths until the intensity of this stretch decreases. That can, if you're new to this, that can take 5 minutes sometimes. When you get really good at it, it can be almost instantaneously. You can just put your mind there and let it go. All right, we're going to maintain this stretch. Hold on to the band with the opposite hand and plug your elbow down into the mat. We're going to take the leg out to the side, only as far as you can keep the opposite hip down on the mat. So the weight of the leg will want to rotate the rest of the pelvis off of the mat. If you do that, you're not actually getting a stretch in the inner thigh muscle, the adductors. You're going to be doing a spine stretch, which is not bad, but different. And right now, my target for you is the inner thigh, your adductor muscles. Your adductors attach to your pubic bone and to your sits bone, or there's one that attaches to your pubic bone and your sits bone. The others attach all to your pubic bone. So to get that one adductor magnus, consider rotating your heel to the sky and the toes to the floor. And then to get the others, bring it more to parallel. So you can play with the position, rotating it out, rotating it back to parallel, and just note which is the most intense stretch for you. Now, just like the hamstring, we want the knee to stay straight here. There is one adductor muscle that crosses the knee joint. So if you bend it, you're not going to get the same stretch. So we keep the legs straight in order to get all 5 of those adductor muscles. You may find that the leg needs to move down closer to your foot, and that's okay. All right, now we're going to release the tension on the band a little bit and hold the leg in space. So we're now contracting those muscles. If you were supporting your leg before, consider taking your hand off and seeing if you can hold the leg in space there. If this is not possible, if it's not possible to do this and keep the opposite hip down, go ahead and lift the leg up a little bit. Otherwise, you want to just hold it in space and do an isometric contraction. Notice if you're holding tension in your back. Try to let that go. There's a little bit of multifidus in the lower back to keep the pelvis heavy on the opposite side, but you want to ensure you're not using your upper back muscles here. All right, and now on your next inhalation, go ahead and relax and see if you can get a little more range in that leg. The opposite hip is pressing down into the mat. If you need to support the leg with the hand underneath, that's perfectly fine. And now notice I've moved from my elbow to the mat to closer to my foot. Do whatever you need to do to get the stretch. We're at R2 now. We're going to take it to R3. You can do the same thing, just release the leg and use gravity as your mechanism for contracting that inner thigh muscle. If you need more than that, you can take the free hand, place it just below the knee, and then press your leg into your hand there. We're just working for 15% maximum intensity on that contraction. Keep that in mind. Take another breath here. As you exhale, relax. See if the leg will drop closer to the floor, maybe up a little closer to your head. Closer to your head is going to add a little hamstring in there. It's also going to stretch that adductor magnus. All right, now, wherever your leg is, we're at R3 now. We're at the end of your rope, so to speak. We're going to move the leg down toward the toes and up toward the head and down toward the toes and up toward the head. And then lower the leg about halfway or more. Allow the knee to bend and bring your leg to parallel. Whew. Okay. Roll in the opposite direction. So I have my left knee bent, so I'm going to roll to my right side until I'm able to get my left foot on the floor. You can use the band to pull your heel closer to you, or you can drop the band and use your hand and bring your hand all the way to that opposite hip. My upper body is resting with a rotation and my arm reaching out to the side. So I'm definitely clearly working on my hips and my hamstrings now, but I'm going to start to add my upper body to the mix. So from this position, rotate your body in the opposite direction of the leg you're stretching. So once again, I'm stretching my left leg. I'm going to rotate to the right and glue my left fingertips to the mat behind me so I get a little more stretch in the chest. I get a little release, a little relief in that left hip, and I get a little more stretch in the chest. And now I'm going to hold my foot to the floor or close to the floor and then roll my hip away. And then roll my hips toward my foot on the floor and then roll away. Do that a couple more times. And when it feels like a good time to stop this motion, go ahead and roll it back and hold there. That back arm is just reaching, resting. No tension in the neck or shoulders. We are stretching deep, deep rotator cuff muscles in the hip. We hear oftentimes about the piriformis. That's the big muscle that attaches from your sacrum to the side of your hip. We're getting some of that now, but our target is a little bit deeper. These muscles we are attempting to stretch now are connected from your sits bone to the top of your hip bone. These are your obturator muscles. All right, we're going to put the hand on the back of the thigh or the back of the knee and push your knee into your hand. This is an isometric contraction. I'm going to exaggerate, but the motion is down this way. So I am pushing into my hand to contract the muscles. And when you do that, when you contract, you might get a little relief from that stretch. We are telling the muscle spindles that it's all okay. Take a deep breath in. Keep contracting just about 15%, and when you're ready to inhale again, release your hand. See if the knee will go a little bit further. If not, that's okay. If you'd like a little bit more, you can use that free hand to give it a little push away. Remember, we're just going to R2. R2 is a significant stretch, but it's not painful. Notice if you're holding tension in your low back. So the tendency with this stretch is to kind of arch the back. See if you can let go of the back muscles and let the spine rest heavy on the mat. Good. We're going to go from R2 to R3, resistance level 3. Put your hand on the outside of your knee and push your knee into your hand. Once again, we get a little relief from that stretch. We contract the muscle through full, relaxed, comfortable breathing cycles. And when you are ready to inhale again, release and see if the leg will go a little further. These are small muscles and they don't have a huge amount of range. So if you don't move much further, or if you don't move further at all, that's okay. And we rest here, noticing what R3 feels like and waiting for that intensity to decrease. Okay, roll toward your foot again, toward the sole of your foot. So you're rolling out of that stretch to your front. Pick up the foot and then place the same hand that was holding onto your ankle or to the band, place it underneath your foot. Roll toward your back. And we're going to take that leg in a figure 4 stretch. So you've seen this and you've done this here. We're actually just going to use our hand to hold it there while the other leg stays out of the picture. And I'd like you to push the knee away and pull it towards you. So you're rotating this femur, this big bone at the top, and you're just using your foot as a sort of rudder to guide it and to stabilize it. So it's so you're in total control of this motion. And then I'd like you to keep it turned out, but pull the knee closer to your chest and then push it away. So we were rotating. Now we're keeping it rotated laterally or turned out and bringing that rotation into your chest. So if you were sitting up, this would be it would be as if you were doing a pigeon stretch. So we're doing a pigeon upside down, basically. And push it away. And then draw circles. And I would like you to draw these circles deep in the hip and scoop out the cobwebs in the hip and notice where you have a little more dense tissue, where the motion becomes a little less smooth and it feels like a kind of like you're going over a bumpy road. Stop right in that bumpy road and work out those spaces. And then we're going to bring the leg out to the side. Take the other leg to parallel and place both feet on the mat. Whoo! Holy cow. All right, give that a little rock from side to side to stretch it out. And let's do the other side. So you can grab your band, place it around your opposite foot, around the ball of your foot. Straighten that leg up in the air. And just pause at R1, remembering that the knee is straight. So give it a little glance and make sure that it actually is straight. and not just feeling as if you're in a good straight position with your natural sense of what straight is. So we want to really lengthen out the space in the back between the hip and the heel. And then a gentle pull down on the toes to include the bottom of the foot in that stretch. You can straighten the opposite leg, and that will increase the intensity for a moment. At R1, the leg stops. We're just waiting for it to become comfortable in this position. Waiting for the stretch sensation. Really, at R1, it should pretty much go away entirely. So that may mean with a straight leg that you need to be down here, right? And that's okay. All right, and now that we have released in this position and really let go, you can probably get a little more range. Go ahead and pull it back if you can. If it doesn't go further, that's okay. And it's only as far as you can go in R1. This is all, these numbers are relative, but again, R1 is just the stopping point where the leg says, I am good here. I'm not in pain. I maybe feel a little stretch. I'm good here. R2, R2 requires a little manual work to get it to that position, and it does feel like a stretch. But again, over time, the intensity decreases. R3 requires a lot more manual work to get it into that position. And though that intensity decreases, it still feels like a pretty significant stretch. All right, so let's go to R2. Push into the band with your leg and your foot to contract the glute, the hamstring, the calf, and the bottom of the foot. 15%. And relax everything else you own. It's only contracting the back of the leg. In this position, the quadricep, the front of the leg, has to work a bit to keep the knee straight, but I want you to notice that that's not your focus. Really emphasize the back body. Continue contracting those muscles at about 15% through a full breathing cycle, starting with an inhale. Exhaling when you're ready, and when you're ready to inhale again, you can relax the hamstring and the glute, and the leg should go back further for you. Depending on how often you do this, it may go back further, or it may go back just a quarter of an inch, and it's all good. Hold it here at R2. You can play with the position of the leg, turning it in and out, and ensure that you're in the best position for the best stretch. And that is relative to you and your body. Wherever it feels like you need the stretch is where you should stretch. Give it another full breathing cycle to release a little bit more tension and be comfortable in this new space. And we're going to take it to R3. Press your glute, your hamstring, and the bottom of your foot into the band. 15%. Maintain that contraction through full, comfortable, relaxed breaths. Ensure that this is not a quadricep exercise, that you're really targeting the back body. Another full inhalation as you continue to contract. When you're ready to exhale, go ahead and let that air go. And on your next inhalation, you relax the glute, the hamstring, the calf, and the bottom of the foot, and pull the leg closer. And here we are at R3. Intense, requires a little bit more effort, but still not painful. Relax your neck and shoulders. Really focus on, rather than focusing on the range of this joint, focus on relaxing your hamstrings. Focus on relaxing your spine muscles, relaxing your calf muscles. Forget about the range, forget about the degree of motion, and put your entire focus on release and relaxation. That will take you further. All right, hold your band with the opposite hand, and then take that leg out to the same side. Use your opposite hand for support if you need to keep your, use the same hand under your leg for support if you need to keep the opposite hip on the mat. Again, we are trying to avoid rotating the whole spine and the pelvis, just taking the leg out to the side. Taking it to R1 and breathing into that space. Play with the position of the leg, turn your toes to the floor, toes and knee to the floor, and then back to parallel. Do that a few times to see if there's a position that's better for you to focus on. And now from R1, we're going to take it a step further by releasing the bottom hand if you're using it for support and just holding the leg in space. We're holding an isometric contraction, and this should be moderate. So if you're having to work really hard to hold it here, do give yourself a little support. Another full breath. And on your next inhalation, go ahead and take the leg closer to the floor. Let gravity take it first, and then give it a little assist with your band or with your hand. The leg may be way up by your head. It may be closer to your foot. Your target stretch is the inner thigh from the pubic bone to the inside of the knee. Notice here also, are you targeting the quadricep? Are you gripping your quadricep? Or are you only using it as much as you need to keep the leg straight? And just as we did for that last hamstring stretch, forget about the range and think about just relaxing the inner thigh muscles. Right, we're going to contract now again to get us to R3. So you can just hold the leg in space and release it with the bottom hand, or if you need more, go ahead and put your hand below your knee and press into the hand. Just 15%. Keep the opposite hip glued to the mat. A full breath, relax your back muscles. On your next inhalation, let the leg go. If you need to support it underneath, that's fine. And with the leg at R3 now, you can bring it closer to your heel and closer to your head and see where it is that you need more attention, or where it is that your inner thigh muscles need more attention. And then lower it down toward your foot, bend the knee, bring the leg to parallel, bend the bottom knee and roll to your side. Use the band if you need to hold that the top foot close to the bottom hip, or let go of the band entirely and just hold on with your hand. We're going to rotate all the way forward so that you can get the foot on the floor. And it may be your whole foot, it may be just your toes, that's fine. Keep your foot in position as you roll your hip back. And then roll your hip forward and roll it back. Take your arm, your back arm, way out to the side and roll your hip forward and roll back. And as you roll your hip forward, reach your fingertips further behind you and try to roll your shoulder forward. Get a stretch in your chest. And then roll back again and pause. So the foot is glued to the mat and we're attempting to pull the pelvis all the way around. Realistically, with the foot on the mat, it probably won't go all the way around, but in your mind, that's the goal. And we're at R1 now. Breathing into the hip, releasing tension elsewhere in the body. Relax your low back muscles. And to get to R2, take that back hand, place it on the outside of your knee, and push your knee into your hand. So you're pushing that way. And just hold and breathe. Release the tension from your neck and shoulders. Take a full breath. Exhale when you are ready to exhale. And your next inhalation increases the stretch. Release your leg, let the knee fall first, and then you can use some muscle to get it there. You can use your hand to give it a little assist if you need that. You can just keep this arm next to you if you like, or you can take it back. We'll do a better stretch for the chest when we're done with the bottom of the body, the lower body, but you can start it here. And just hold and breathe here, focusing on relaxing, releasing tension, letting go of fascia. And then we take it to R3, hand on the outside of the knee, push into your hand, contract and breathe 15%. These breaths are full, fluid, and easy. They start from the pelvic floor. They move all the way up through the spine. As you exhale, it's just a comfortable, relaxed exhalation with no force. On your next inhalation, release your hand. Take the knee a little further away from you. If you like, you can use your hand to give it a little assist. You can also try to pull your pelvis back around to the floor a little further. Okay, let's change this stretch a little bit. Take the bottom hand from your ankle and place it under your heel. The top hand is on your knee. And first we're going to rotate the hip in and out. And notice any restriction there, or notice no restriction there. That's fine too. And then pull your knee towards your chest and push it away. Knee into the chest and push it away. Draw circles. Find the edges of that joint. Okay, and now we're going to lift the heel a little bit, rotate the pelvis back, and take the leg into what would be a figure 4 stretch if we had the opposite leg lifted. This is our upside down pigeon. So we're going to push the knee out and then bring the leg in and push it away. So I'm sort of trying to make a parallel line with my tibia. That's my lower leg bone. And I'm just moving the leg, that parallel line close to my chest, and then pushing it away. As if I'm trying to line up my ankle and my knee with my two shoulders. And you can draw circles with the leg in the hip. So I'm cueing where to hold your leg, but keep in mind this stretch, as I'm sure you can feel, is about the hip. All right, we're going to bring the heel down, turn that leg to parallel, place the foot on the floor, and then bring the other leg up. Give yourself a little shake there. Pull your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little rock and roll on the mat. We're going to do a happy baby pose to reset the sacrum. So when we do those significant rotations and we pull on the leg, we're actually pulling on the sacrum. We're pulling it from side to side. And if the muscles are equally tight, we end up with equal range on both sides. Typically, one side is tighter than the other, so the sacrum gets pulled harder on one side than the other. So to reset it, we do a happy baby. You can hold on to anywhere between your knees, up your leg to your toes, and you let the knees come wider than your rib cage, and then pull your heels down to the mat. So this feels like an adductor stretch, an inner thigh stretch, but we're actually also pulling the pelvis apart so that the sacrum can settle down in between those two pelvic bones. And you can play with pulling one knee down and then the other knee down, and you can rock from side to side. Bring the soles of the feet together, square the knees, and then choose one side or the other to roll to. Roll all the way to your side and then press yourself up. Let's assess that. Okay, so sit right on top of your sits bones. Wow. Okay. And so I've been starting this with bend your knees, but do you even need to bend your knees? If you do, that's okay. But I just came here. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to nod the chin and round forward. And the spine has been, we've been moving it around a little bit, and it may have released more. It may have gotten a little tighter as you changed your focus. But overall, do you feel more flexibility in your spine and your hamstrings? If you walk your hands forward, do they go further, or do they go to the same space but with a little more ease? Can you reach any closer to your toes? And the other thing I notice in my body is that when I started, my legs were quite wide. They're probably about 1.5 feet apart, wider than my sits bones, definitely. And this time I just automatically ended up with my heels in line with my sits bones. So that's something to consider as well. Are your legs closer together than they were when you started? Fantastic. Okay, let's do some upper body. And we're going to start with the chest. So you can lie down on either side, stack your knees, and support your head with your hand underneath you. Take the bottom arm up to the sky and rotate back to the floor behind you. Relax your neck. And let your arm just fall. So I'm keeping my knees stacked, and I'm just rotating my spine as far as I can go without letting my hips slide yet. So we'll change that, but for now, keep the knees stacked. Ensure that your head is entirely relaxed, fully supported. All right, keep your fingertips there. As you inhale, roll your shoulder forward. As you exhale, rotate your spine back, let your hips slide. I'm going to move my mic around here so I'm not lying on it. So now the arm is reaching back to the floor. We're at R1 here. Stay here, glue your fingers to the floor and push your pelvis forward. And then lower back down. And push your pelvis forward as if you're trying to stack your knees. And then roll back out of it. Do one more time, roll the pelvis forward. Lift your arm, keep it behind you, but lift it up and around toward your head. When you start to feel restriction, pause and breathe. As before, rather than thinking about range of motion, think about letting go of tension in the muscles where you feel tightness. And then continue making your way up and over your head. If you find another spot where you feel like you need to stop, go ahead and stop there. Take a couple full breaths. And then bring it all the way around to the side again. From here, we're going to just flip over to your other side. I'm going to pick my body up and spin around so I can see you, but you can just roll over to your other side. Same thing, stack the knees, support your head with your hand, reach the top arm forward. Keep the knees stacked as you bring your top arm up to the sky, and then rotate back. So this first range is only as far as you can go with your knees and your hips stacked. Your head is fully supported and there is no tension in your neck. So that means either using your bicep muscle to hold your head up, or you might want to put a pillow underneath your head. Reach your fingertips long. Keep your fingertips back there and rotate your body a little more forward, shoulder toward the front of the room. Take a deep breath here. And as you exhale, let the hips slide, roll back. Keep the back arm long. As you exhale, rotate the lower half as if trying to stack the knees again. They may not stack all the way because that hand stays on the floor behind you, or they might. And then release. And then push that top knee and hip forward as if to stack. And release. And you have one more time. Push the top hip forward, stack, and pause there. Take a deep breath into your chest, into your shoulder. Make sure your head, neck, and shoulders are relaxed. And you're breathing into the chest space on that back arm. Maintain the stretch here and move your arm down to the floor and up overhead. Sorry, down to the hip, that is, and up overhead. And then continue moving the arm up overhead until you find a new restriction and pause to breathe there. Relax your spine. There's a rotation here, and I'm using a little bit of spine and a lot of inner thigh and oblique to pull my top knee forward. Keep the spine long. All right, and now breathe into the chest again and take the arm up into a new position. Pause and breathe there. As you rest in this new space and you focus on tension release rather than range, notice the intensity decreasing and notice the arm subtly, easily moving closer to the floor. All right, to bring your arm up overhead, bend your elbow. Roll all the way back to your side. And then bring yourself to sit upright. Do a quick assessment or reassessment of the shoulders. So bring your arms straight up over your head with the palms facing each other, and notice where your arms go in relation to your ears without popping your rib cage. Ears are pulled back over your shoulders. Look to the right, look to the left, and notice if they're any closer to your ears than they were when you started. And then turn your palms forward, take your arms down, bring your ears back over your shoulders again if they're not already there, and then pull your shoulder blades together. And look at where your arms went. Fantastic. Okay. You did it again. Well done. Nice stretch. Thank you for joining me tonight.